Oh, are they?
So maybe get them to play.
Well, so Moberly played Friday night.
Right, but they weren't on virtual yet, were they? Is that right?
Is Ms. Teal with us?
She is. She's going to turn her video on.
Crazy.
Yeah, I'll make sure real quick.
Oh, wait. Why am. Is it?
Yeah, because we're
Yes.
supposed to play them tonight, right?
Yeah.
Hannibal's got 4, you can take 4 Hannibal. Hannibal's been breaking the rules.
Oh, yeah, I'm surprised you can't take 8. They can.
Yeah.
Are we ready to run the room? All right, I'll call the meeting to order. Rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming. We assume she's going to be there shortly. We have an agenda before us. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So,
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion or questions of the agenda?
Turn her camera on. Ms. Teal? Would you be able to turn your camera on? And you're muted. Are you there? She's gone.
Shall we proceed or
Well,
do you want to?
Yes. Mrs. Dement?
yes.
Mr. Nichols?
Yes.
Mr. Yeager?
Yes.
Ms. John?
Yes.
Mr. Pasco?
Yes. Kelly, we're adopting the agenda.
Okay. Can you see me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Ms. Teal?
Yes.
So the agenda is adopted 6-0-0.
Oh, shoot, sorry.
At least it wasn't Metallica.
I was looking at the next agenda.
All right, so we come to the Pioneer in Education presentation, which is normally a big deal with a reception and lots of people, but 2020.
So we will present that.
Robbie Miller. Robbie Miller served the Mexico School District as a member of the Board of Education from 2010 to 2016. Mr. Miller was involved in many aspects of the school system. He shared, "I enjoyed attending events like graduation, award assemblies, sporting events, and concerts. Educators and education is so important to the fabric of the community, and my goal was to help strengthen that system. I only wish I could have done more. Educators give so much of themselves, particularly in this time of COVID-19, and I am grateful for each of them." Mr. Miller would like to extend his appreciation for this award, stating, "It was a true honor for me to serve the Mexico School Board for 6 years, yet it is the staff that does all the hard work."
Sally Stewart. Sally Stewart served Mexico High School from 1987 until her retirement in 2008. She was first hired as a tutor from 1987 to 1989. Then from 1989 to 2008, Ms. Stewart taught French 1, 2, 3, and 4 and served as a French club sponsor and foreign language department chair. Ms. Stewart enjoyed being a part of the Mexico School District with its proud traditions and strong academic reputation. She expressed, "There was a wonderful sense of camaraderie among the Mexico High School staff and a desire for excellence in our professionalism and in our efforts for student success. Many of the staff members were good friends. Others were respected colleagues, and we worked well together and were supported by the administrators, parents, and the community. There is a vibrance being among teenagers that inspired me, and I am very pleased to see many of my former students living here, working in our fine town, and raising their children to be Mexico Bulldogs."
Mary White Littrell. Mary White Littrell spent her entire Mexico 59 career teaching at Eugene Field Elementary from 1978 to 2008. She served in special services teaching children with learning disabilities. She added, "I was privileged to work with many outstanding teachers, administrators, and staff. Eugene Field was a place where we were like family under the leadership of Melanie Richter. The needs of the students were always our main priority, and the staff worked as a team to meet those challenges. Eugene Field was truly a special place, and I appreciate this special honor."
Joan Fate. Mrs. Joan Fate served the Mexico School District from 1976 to 2002. Mrs. Fate began teaching when she was just 20 years old and still a college student. Although she began her career in Ladonia with Community R6, she made her way quickly to the Mexico School District. She remembers, "I moved to Mexico when I was 4, attended and graduated from Mexico Public Schools, and was honored to return and retire as an educator of the district. I taught 2nd grade at Eugene Field during my entire tenure, and I enjoyed the camaraderie of the teachers, principals, and families."
Teresa Fryer. Teresa Fryer served in the Mexico School District from 1993 through 2015. She spent 3 years at Central Office as a Title I TLC teacher, 3 years at Eugene Field with Title I reading, and her remaining years as an early childhood education teacher. During this time, Mrs. Fryer was able to do what she loved. She shared, "There is much joy in being able to make learning fun and seeing children, particularly those with learning challenges, find success in school. Serving at Mexico Public Schools provided the chance to meet so many wonderful parents, as well as work with tremendous teachers, administrators, secretaries, custodians, bus drivers, and teachers' assistants over the years. My life was truly enriched by my time at the district."
Junior David. Junior David served the Mexico School District from 1986 to 2016. He worked a full time for 30 years and followed up with 2 years as a part-time employee. Mr. David worked in maintenance department with some of our current employees, Jason and Bob. His specialty area was heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, or HVAC. Junior commented that he really enjoyed working with the people at Mexico 59, adding, "It's one of the best jobs I've ever had."
Nicola. Nicola Phillips served the Mexico School District as a food service worker at Hawthorne Elementary from 2008 to 2016. Providing a healthy school meal has an impact on students inside and outside of the classroom, and Mrs. Phillips knew this well. She often paid for student meals or donated other needed items like shoes to those in need. Nikki's connection with kids also brought her and her husband into the classroom to speak about their hobby of raising bees. She remembers the children being so excited that they almost missed the bus. Mrs. Phillips has served the community as a Sunday school teacher and a 4-H leader. And as in her role with the school district, she just enjoys helping the children. Mrs. Phillips retired from our district in 2016.
Well, that was very nice. I would express the appreciation and gratitude of the board to all those people and the magnificent work they did for the district. I'm sure that some of you guys knew them immediately, and that's just fantastic that people would put in that much time and that much of themselves. It reminds us why a school district is such an awesome thing. I know that they're not here to appreciate it, but does anyone have a special memory or association with one of those figures that they wanted to share?
I had Mrs. Stewart. I had Sally Stewart for French all through high school. She was always fun. French class was always fun.
And that is my French excellently? Okay. I don't need to hear anything else. So the hits will keep on coming, and we will have our staff highlight.
Hi, I'm Amber Crane, and I am the principal at Eugene Field Elementary. Our Title I teachers, Nancy Baker and Sue Nixon, are the backbone of our Eugene Field Reading Intervention Program. Between the two of them, they have 55 years of experience in education. They are committed to the reading success of all students in our building. In order to address the loss of instruction from last spring, Mrs. Baker and Mrs. Nixon are currently working with 129 students. Due to our COVID safety measures from our Caring Comeback Plan, they meet with small groups and individuals, making sure not to intermingle students from different classes. During our 2 weeks of distance learning, Mrs. Baker and Mrs. Nixon provided 45 minutes of daily instruction to first grade students whose parents could bring them to school and pick them up. This allowed them to continue their reading intervention work, and as a result, they have some first graders who have achieved their growth and will move out of their group. In addition to helping students be successful readers, they also mentor some of our students with behavior and social emotional needs. They truly care about all Eugene Field students and their success in and outside the classroom.
Hello, I am Mrs. Peasley from Eugene Field Elementary. I'm the assistant principal here, and I have had the privilege of starting my teaching career with Mrs. Baker and Mrs. Nixon, and now working with them here at Eugene Field. If you drive by Eugene Field, you will often see Mrs. Baker and Mrs. Nixon's cars in the parking lot long after school hours. They not only stay to plan lessons and interventions for their students, but they also offer their time to support teachers as well. They often train new teachers on the programs that we provide for our students and different assessments that the teachers will have to give. Mrs. Baker and Mrs. Nixon believe in the power of knowledge and are lifelong learners themselves. They are constantly researching the best ways to teach students reading and participating in trainings, conferences, and webinars. We are so privileged to have Mrs. Baker and Mrs. Nixon at Eugene Field.
I'm Nancy Baker. This is my 34th year of teaching here at Eugene Field.
And I'm Sue Nixon, and this is my 21st year.
And we work on reading skills, beginning reading skills. With some of the older kids, we can get into comprehension, things like that.
We started out with, obviously we talked to Amber and Desi about the possibility of getting them here in person. And we said we want them in person instead of, otherwise we would go to them, go to their driveways or whatever it took, or meet outside in the parking lot, wherever we could.
or parks close to neighborhoods and have kids come and set up in the shelters. We were willing to do about anything because we know it's so important to get them here and to work with them closely and directly.
And we had so many of our youngest, our first graders that were so far behind, and we did not want them to lose what they'd already gained. So we worked really hard. We sent an email out to parents. We sent a letter home with kids, got both information back, and just gave certain times that they could pick when it worked for them to bring their child.
And the parents have been great about getting kids here, and if the kids don't have masks, there were some that were donated, and so we've been able to make sure the kids are masked while they're here. Parents have dropped them off on time, picked them up on time, and we've had excellent attendance, so
We've had
we've
about
been pleased.
20 of our kiddos that have come in, so that's been great to be able to work one-on-one with them.
And we focus primarily on first grade, but we've had a couple of families where they said, you work with my second grader, or you work with my third grader, can they come? And we cleared it with Mrs. Crane, and she said, of course. And so we had a second grader and a third grader come, and we've even had a couple of other teachers that have stepped in so that we could work with an individual student or students, and they have helped with some of the older kiddos that we've had come. So it's kind of been a team effort.
Yes, it's been very positive.
All right. Also very nice. And I'm glad we're able to do those and to experience a little bit of what's happening in our buildings. Again, I'd like to thank them for all their hard work, and they're going above and beyond. We come to the president's comments, the comment section, anyway. And I would like to recognize our December Employees of the Month. So congratulations and thank you to Ms. Jennifer Warburton, who's a Spanish teacher at the Mexico High School and has been employed at the district for 6 years, as well as Ms. Elizabeth Smallwood, who is a paraprofessional at the middle school and has been employed at the district for 5 months. So we thank them and congratulate them. We'll start here with you.
I want to thank all the staff and teachers again for, as we pivoted to distance learning for 2 weeks, went really smoothly in my household. I heard a lot of good things, that it did go quite smoothly this time. And then as I was looking over the building reports, they were impressive. I mean, those are always great to have for, especially right now when we can't see what's going on. And the couple of things that stood out to me were at the middle school. Even when you're doing the distance learning, you're still doing the top dogs. You're still sending those kids things, which is great, and I'm sure it keeps them involved. And then at the Heart Career Center, I was really excited to see that they're learning the G and M codes, which are used by machinists, which we are in desperate need of in our world now. So those are some really exciting things, just going through those building reports. And again, thank you to all of our staff and teachers and administrators.
Like everyone else, congratulations to the Pioneer in Education Award winners, the Employees of the Month. And I mean, it's the same thing every month now, as teachers are doing a great job and all the staff just to keep things rolling. I know they're doing a good job because my 2 kids at home are complaining, so that tells me everything's done right. But also for all the people doing extracurricular activities to make it happen. Some schools are shutting it down when they go virtual. We're not. I think that means a lot. So it makes me happy personally. So, but thank you to everyone.
Just got to second what they both said. Great job. Keep up the good work. Stay safe. Thank you for everything you do on a daily basis. Congratulations to all the Pioneer Award winners, the staff highlight members, and then the Employees of the Month.
Yes, same here. I mean, congratulations to all the winners and the people that were recognized. That's awesome. A lot of teachers that were here for a really long time and definitely deserve to be recognized. Just thanks to everybody for all the hard work this year. I know it's been an ever-changing world everywhere, so it's very much appreciated, and I wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays and safe. Try to remain healthy.
Ms. Teal?
Sorry, had to unmute. Ditto to everything everyone has said. COVID is no fun. Sorry I couldn't be there tonight. It's the first board meeting I've ever missed. So I'm glad I'm able to show up virtually, but thank you to the teachers for everything that they've done through all of this, because if you're teaching while you're feeling like I'm feeling right now, this is not a fun experience. So I hope you get a good, nice long break and everyone is able to come back happy and healthy after Christmas. So Merry Christmas to everyone.
Okay, thank you. And as everyone else has said, I want to extend our thanks, our gratitude. There's so many people working so hard and doing such good work. And I'm afraid to name people because I'm going to leave somebody out. But congratulations, thank you to everyone. And it's through Tuesday, you're 40% of the way through the week. There is light at the end of this tunnel, so keep at it. You are almost there. All right. We'll move on to our consent agenda. Includes a couple of items. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Questions, comments?
So just for personal, what do we do with the old buses?
With old buses?
Oh, with old buses? We do have one right now that Mr. Jackson did talk with us about earlier in the year, and talked about looking into the possibility of declaring it surplus. And sometimes you're able to get bids on those, sometimes not, and sometimes you're just able to scrap those. And so it depends on if we receive those as part of a grant that requires us to destroy the motor or not, in just my personal experience that I've had. So I cannot recall which kind this was. I think it was one that had the motor destroyed, that was required to have the motor destroyed, if I'm not incorrect.
Sorry.
No,
Thanks
that's
for educating
okay.
me on it. Thank you.
Whenever you're ready.
Ms. Teal,
Yes.
Ms. Dement,
Abstain.
Mr. Nichols,
Yes.
Mr. Yeager,
Yes.
Ms. John,
Yes.
Mr. Pasco.
Yes, approved 501. We have some bills here, or a bill, I guess. So I will move that we pay check number 135553 to Apple Computers for $1,373.85. Is there a second? We have a second.
Ms. Teal,
Yes.
Mrs. Dement,
Yes.
Mr. Nichols,
Yes.
Mr. Yeager,
Yes.
Ms. John,
Abstain.
Mr. Pasco.
Yes, approved 501. Thank you. We have the building reports. I think some of our building leaders are probably online. Do we have questions or comments about any of the building reports? Again, it's nice to see what's happening and get a sense of sort of normalcy. Although they were a reminder that it's not, nothing is normal. Okay, and the special education report is in front of us. Is there anything particularly you'd like to draw our attention to there, or?
No, we just would ask, what questions we might be able to answer for you. Miss Blessing had a death in the family, and so she's unable to, attend remotely.
Okay. So much of special education is, has to meet specific benchmarks, and there are very rigid qualifications for lots of this stuff. I assume we're meeting all of our responsibilities while educating students and
Right,
in the least restrictive environment and all those kinds of things that we need to do.
right,
Our program is going well.
yes.
More specific questions? All right, we'll move on. Board candidate filing open today. We'll run for a month. Did anyone file today?
We have two that filed today, Randolph Reinwald and Keith Louder.
Who was the first one, Bethany? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Randolph Reinwald,
Okay.
he goes by Randy.
All right.
Did you say Keith Lauber?
Yes.
And then the district report cards are here. These are largely informational. They're just sort of survey information about where we rank, or maybe rank is not a wrong word, but how we compare to other districts in the state at large. We are lower in some categories, like number of people going on to 4-year degrees, but higher in others. So. Are there specific questions about any of the report cards?
I've been doing virtual training, so I think I know the whole thing here.
You probably have it memorized, you probably could do a report on it.
Yeah, I abstain.
Does anything stand out to you then?
No, but I mean, you do look at I never realized there was so much,
So much data.
statistics and stuff in it
Yes.
till now. I mean, so many groups, but the thing that you have to fill out stuff and answer, and the thing I say more than anything is, you take my 2 kids. My daughter, she's not as intelligent as my son, but she works her tail off. My son doesn't care. Yeah, I said that out loud. But you said, how do you judge the heart of a child? It's the thing that you can't really
Yeah.
get out of that. But I mean, statistics, I guess.
I say that we will all lose our job, that the most important person in a district is the core data person. Like the superintendent doesn't matter, no one matters except the core data person. I mean, we could all lose our job and she would be, that is what runs our district. It is really, it's just grown and grown. And there are new charts.
If you can't measure it, it didn't happen.
No, there are new pieces of data that are required every day for us.
Yeah, there's a lot of it.
And it runs everything. It runs funding. It runs everything that we get to do with kids.
I assume that none of the categories on any one of these report cards is a matter of concern to us. I mean, concern in the sense that we're worried about things obviously improving, but
I
we don't have any like special problems that we need to address.
I think we have several special problems that we need to address. When I look at
In terms of
this-
some of the subgroup achievement and that kind of thing.
Yes, and we didn't have a lot of achievement data on this because the state board voted to give assessments in the spring, but those not count for APR purposes, for annual performance report purposes. And so this will essentially be the second year that we do not have that type of data feeding into our APR report. And so it is concerning because a lot of that data, and there's tons of data, but a lot of that data is really what we base it's kind of a reflection on how are we doing. I think when I interviewed, that was the district report card was what I looked at. And there were several concerns that I had at that time in February, and there, I think, continue to be several areas of concern that we have now. So I think that will help us as we get closer to our strategic plan. And I think just to kind of overview some of the things that we talked about today when we looked at this, again, that targeted status that is mentioned for Eugene Field Elementary and for Mexico High School, those are definitely areas of concern. We have made a lot of progress at the high school with regard to our graduation rate increasing and our dropout rate decreasing in the last couple of years. So that is on track to really not be an issue any longer. And so I think the things that principals are putting in place will hopefully take care of that targeted status in conjunction with Miss Blessing and that program. But I think that there are several places where our data does not align to what we expect for our kids and for our community. And I think there are areas that we could definitely grow in.
Do we have internal measurements in place that we can use to compare year over year?
Yes, and I think
We're not totally reliant on the state to tell us how we're doing,
No.
obviously.
And I think we're better situated in our district, performance-wise, as far as academic performance than other districts, because we do have so much data. And I would argue too, with our social emotional data with Ms. McCall, we're in better shape than a lot of districts.
Further questions? Ms. Teal, you'll sing out if you have a question, yes?
Absolutely.
All right. On to unfinished business then. And the school calendar question.
So I will just tell you where we're at. We've had our first meeting with our CTA sub-team that we put together. We have representatives from every building on that team. So the first meeting really consisted of taking stock with how have we done things in the past? How do we want that to look this time and moving forward? And then talking with them about the process that we're gonna go through and the timeline that they would like to see. And so we talked about next steps. We have another meeting in January, and we have a checklist that we are creating for them, and they will add things and revise things. It will be a collaborative document. We will get the input of several groups, PDC, district test coordinator, activities director, admin team, and then of course this team, and they will be getting input from the people that they represent. And then we will simply have an in-person meeting where we will have blank calendars and we will just craft a lot of calendars, and we will put those out for a vote for CTA members. They will have what's called priority voting, and then we will have district voting, and then we will bring to the board the recommendation, the collaborative recommendation. It will be different than probably in years past where the board sort of selected the calendar. This will be selected by members of the district.
Questions about the process? Okay. Thank you. We look forward to seeing what they've crafted. those 4 to 8 weeks?
No one's really mentioned it, but we're early in the process. No one is really, I think that they're very excited about having input
Well, I don't want to give anybody any ideas then.
into the process. Yeah. People seem I feel like our teams are going very well. We have our salary team. Thursday, we'll have our second meeting with them. We've had several CTA executive team meetings, so I think things are going well.
I'm gonna need some sort of league standings to keep track of all these teams.
It's
This
a lot.
is like the NFL.
We need that too. We're like, which team are we needing? Okay, are we supposed to do something or are they supposed to do something? Yes.
All right, so that's exciting. Keep going. On to new business. And we have our audit presentation and we have our auditor with us.
Mrs. Graves is on the TV.
Fantastic.
And she's going to be presenting.
All right, good evening. Can you all see my audit report now?
Yes.
Yes, okay, perfect. Can you guys see me as well, or can you just see my audit report?
Just the report.
Just the report, okay. That's what I thought with Google Meet. I wanted to verify that. So I've been working on Zoom and Google Meet and WebEx and everything else we've all been learning rapidly this year. All right, Lindsay Graves, Graves and Associates CPA is here to present your 2020 audit report. The first 3 pages of the report are what you have retained us to do, and that is to provide an opinion on your financial statements. We're coming back to you this year with what we call an unmodified opinion. And what that means, that basically means what you want to hear us say is that nothing came to our attention during the course of the audit that would have rendered any modifications to that opinion. The next section of the audit report are your financial statements. And we are required to present them in 2 different forms. I'm going to jump ahead to the income statement since you all are modified cash. And here on page 7, your income statement, essentially by the 4 funds, what you're more accustomed to seeing, how you're more accustomed to seeing your financial statements. Just gonna hit on a few financial highlights here. The first one being focusing on Fund 1 and Fund 2, the general fund and the special revenue fund, the teachers fund. Overall revenues, combination between these 2, as you can see here, are down about 3% compared with June 30th of 2019. So no significant change there. The expenses, we had no significant change there as well. And overall net income as of June 30th, 2020 was right at $90,000. And again, I focus on these 2 funds being your operating funds. We basically know what, the capital projects and the debt service funds are. One of the things that we look at for the financial health of the district is how many months you have built up in reserves to meet your operating expense obligations. We as a firm take a very conservative approach to this. It's basically the way we can really pare it down and compare district to district, entity to entity. And so we typically like to see organizations have a 4 to 6 month operating reserve built up. And the reason for that is that, again, in the most dire situations, if all of your state funding, your federal funding, et cetera, ground to a halt, that you all would have 4 to 6 months worth of reserves as of June 30th each year to meet your operating obligations. And as my notes here show, you had just under 5 months, so you're right within that 4 to 6 month. Again, it's just a way for us to measure the best apples to apples across the board on that, but you all are well within that range. And the reason for that is that as of June 30th, you would have the 4 to 6 months built up so that, again, in a worst case scenario, you would be able to get to the November, December, and on into January when the tax rolls the tax rolls begin rolling in again on a significant level. The next section of your audit report are the notes to the financial statements, and these go on for quite a few pages. They give narrative to the financial statements, and I'm just going to hit on a couple of highlights here as well. The first one being, if we jump on down to page 17 of the audit report, page 20 here of the PDF, cash and investments. So being a political subdivision in the state of Missouri, the district's required to have all of its deposits fully insured by FDIC or collateral pledged in the financial by the financial institutions in the district's name. And so this note is disclosing here that you all met that requirement as of June 30th, 2020. The next note that I'm going to touch on the next page here, long-term debt. You all continue to pay down your bonds in accordance with the amortization schedule. Paid down just underneath 1.4 in principal as of June 30th, 2020. And on into the next page, we present your repayment schedule here on through 2037 under the current terms. And then we're required to disclose how much you all spent in interest related to each type of debt. And so as you see there, you spent just under $600,000 in interest expense on those bonds as of June 30th, 2020. To the next page, we had a new lease certificate of participation, just under 1.4 million, and we didn't, due to timing, we didn't have any interest expense related to that. And the final portion of your long-term debt disclosure, lease purchase, continue on with that, and that you incurred just under $47,000 of interest expense related to that financing as of June 30th, 2020. Page 22 begins your retirement footnote. Nothing significant changes here from last year. We're basically just disclosing that you all met the PSRS 14.5% retirement contribution and the 6.86% for peers as of the year ended. We're required to present this on a 3-year trend. The next note I'm going to touch on, note 9, taxes. As this note discloses, you all had current and delinquent tax collections for your 3 counties, Drain, Callaway, and Monroe of 99%, 100%, and 99%. And we typically see governments in the mid-Missouri area have a 96 to 99% collection rate here. So for all 3 of those counties, you all are well within that. And what we're looking for here is that you all are receiving appropriately, materially, what you all should be from the counties. I think I talked about last year, we have a county in the mid-Missouri area that for one reason or another, every 4 or 5 years probably, they don't get tax rolls out, distributions out on time. And so again, we're looking for you all having enough reserves built up to meet your operating expense obligations that I spoke of previously in case you would get in a dire situation as that. And so again, meeting these or falling within the 96 to 99%. You'll sometimes see it hit 100% here. For Callaway County, sometimes you'll see it go above 100%. I always give the example of the 2008 recession. We saw delinquencies and property tax collections go up with what was going on economically across the nation. And then in the years of recovery, we saw those catch up. So sometimes you can see this percentage fall a little bit below that 96% and then catch up and go over 100% one year to the next. It's an ebb and flow, but that's the reason that we're monitoring that is so again, the district, we're looking to see if the district appropriately received what they should have from the counties. The next note, note 11, this one's been around now for a few years. And this is disclosing abatements. Again, the goal is to give businesses a tax break to locate within the district and provide jobs. But this gives the detail of what that effect is directly to the district on those reduced taxes. The next and final note, evaluation of subsequent events. So we're performing your audit as of June 30th, 2020, but we're required under professional standards to review any significant subsequent events through the date of the audit report, which is December 15th of this year today. And the only new thing I have coming back this year is that a canned disclosure at this point under professional standards that we're required to put in here, that as of the date of your report, December 15th, COVID was still going on, and we don't know fully what the operational or financial effect may or may not be to the district. Again, as we live this thing day to day, sometimes moment by moment, our firm performs a little over 100 audits in the course of a year, and at this time, I think I've only had one that we were able to provide an estimate of what the financial effect was to that organization, and that was a nonprofit that operates a museum, and so we were able to disclose what the effect was of having to refund prepaid ticket sales, that sort of thing. But so far, especially for my school districts and other governments in the state, it's just very difficult at this time to provide any sort of reasonable estimate of what the partial or full effect of COVID is. The next section of the audit report are your budgetary comparison schedules for Fund 1 and Fund 2, the general fund, and the special revenue fund, the teachers fund. State statute requires this to be done, so this is basically disclosing that the district met this requirement as of June 30th. The next section of the audit report is the federal compliance section. All non-federal entities spending more than $750,000 in federal monies are required to undergo what we commonly call a single audit. And that is an additional compliance audit with your financial audit. And we do that on a risk assessment basis, et cetera. I'll speak about that just a bit more in a moment. But as you can see there, you all spent federal funds just under $2.5 million. So you are obviously well over that $750,000 threshold to trigger that single audit. The next section is government auditing standards. What this is that both DESE and the single audit require your audit to be performed in accordance with government auditing standards, or what's more commonly referred to as the Yellow Book. And I like to think of this as a higher standard of audit, in that we have to have additional continuing education each year to even qualify to be able to perform these types of audits. Namely about 40 hours every year, specifically in government audits, to qualify for this. And so that's disclosing some of that information there to you all. The next section is where we opine on the compliance with the uniform guidance, or as I previously referred to, the single audit. And we're coming back to you all again this year with an unmodified opinion, which again, just like the financial statements, is what you want to hear us say. And finally, over here on the schedule of findings and responses, they clearly show here's what your unmodified, or what your type of financial statement opinion is. Here's what your compliance over your major programs related to your single audit is. And then here at the bottom of page 37 discloses which federal programs we audited this year, Title I, and then the child nutrition. And so we're doing lunch, snack, breakfast, summer food service on what they call a cluster basis, and that we audit all of those together. And again, we have to do that on a risk-based assessment. We have to reach a certain amount of coverage of federal dollars each year in selecting which programs we audit on a rotating basis. The next section here, we are coming back to you all with 2 findings this year, nothing different than last year. The first one is the segregation of duties, and that is just that due to the size of the district, you all are limited in how many people you can have involved in a transaction. Typically, textbook cases show that you have to have 13 to 14 people involved in a transaction to fully segregate duties. And so being a smaller to medium-sized entity such as yourselves, it's not reasonable to hire additional people just to fully segregate duties. So we look at what you all do to help mitigate any risk that errors or omissions could happen because of that lack of segregation of duties. But we do have to bring it to your attention that it's a risk. We don't have any particular findings related to it, but that it's just an inherent risk due to the size of the district. The next one, again, nothing new here either, oversight of the financial reporting process. And what this is that you all rely on us as the external auditors to put these financial statements and the related notes together in the way that you see them here tonight. And that's what we call a commonly accepted practice. But what it does present is what we call a self-review threat, in that we're human beings as well. And so if we are putting all of this together and we're auditing it, that we could miss something. And so on this, we're looking for mitigating controls as well. Management has the opportunity to review the audit report ahead of time and approve it for final issuance and things along those lines. But just like the segregation of duties finding, again, it's an inherent risk. And so we're required to bring that to your attention. The next section of the audit report, this has been around now for a few years, the corrective action plan. If we have any findings, such as the 2 that I just covered, we're required to have the auditee put those findings on their letterhead and sign off on them. The findings here are basically the same as the version that I just went over in the audit report. The only thing that's different on each of them are these completion dates and that they say non-applicable. I always like to go over this with my boards because I think it looks, for lack of a better term, weird to say that a completion date is non-applicable. And what this is it's really meant to be that if we were performing the audit and we found that the district was doing X wrong, we would write it up in here and say the district was doing X wrong, and then the district has the opportunity, management, to respond of here's how we're going to fix it, and then here's our expected completion date for addressing it. But because those 2 findings are ongoing, and we again don't expect you to hire additional staff just to segregate duties or anything, under professional standards, we're required to just say that it's not applicable on the completion date. And then we're required to have management sign off on those findings there. Again, our firm audits a little over 100 entities in the course of the year. And I think possibly maybe 96, I've never put pencil to paper, I probably should do that, of how many of them receive those findings. Again, just being smaller to medium-sized entities. So it's pretty far and few between, just again, given the size of the entities. The next section of your audit report is the state compliance. DESE requires us to perform an examination on certain statistics, namely transportation and attendance, and some other various items. We're coming back to you all with no findings here as well. And then the schedule of selected statistics begins here on page 44. It goes on for about 4 pages in detail of specifically what we're performing an examination on. And There are two letters that accompany the audit report. The first being the communication of audit results. I don't have anything new here this year compared to last year, but I will go over a couple of items. First off, what this is that during the course of your audit, we're working with management, we're working with employees, but ultimately, as the independent auditors, we report back to you all as the governing body. And so this puts narrative to certain things that did or did not happen during the course of the audit. And again, just going to hit on a couple of highlights here. We're required to further bring to your attention via this letter that we reviewed management's estimate of revenue in the budgeting process, and that we believe that it's reasonable based on prior year, et cetera. And so nothing new there. And of course, you all are involved in that process as well as being the board. And then we're also to bring to your further attention the importance of having the FDIC or pledge collateral coverage with the financial institutions. And again, the importance of that is that, and why it's state statute, is that if the financial institutions themselves would get into trouble and default, that all of the district's deposits would be fully insured by one method, one means or another, and so that the district could essentially get their money back. They're fully covered. Two items separate but related: difficulties encountered in performing the audit and disagreements with management. I don't have anything here as each of these disclosed. Would you like to go over these with my board? Difficulties encountered in performing the audit. I often get the question of what my most common difficulty is. And in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, it's been turnover at auditees. I think it's fair to say for all of us, one coast to the other, that turnover and shortage of labor, certainly skilled labor, experienced labor, et cetera, has been a challenge. And so often that has slowed audits being issued. But us coming back to you all here in mid-December, ahead of the December 31st due date for the audit report to DESE, further shows that we did not have any of those issues, but I do like to cover that with my boards. The second one here, disagreements with management. I've luckily only had a couple of these in my career so far, and typically if they are significant enough to be escalated into this letter, and under professional standards, we're required, if either of these things happen, that we have to reach out to the board as the governing body ahead of time and say, hey, we're having these issues before they go into this letter. Is typically with disagreements with management, when they've happened, we have stepped down from the engagement. It's just not a good situation if the independent auditor is having disagreements with management or vice versa. And so it's usually resulted in that. But again, as this discloses, we did not have those issues. But as I said before, I like to go over with my boards, again, just the importance of what we're doing and what this all means. And by the nature of the audit cycle, we're only before you as your independent auditors one time a year. And so this is your time to hear from us verbally and in writing. So I like to cover those items. The second letter that accompanies the audit report is the management letter. I don't have anything here new as well. But we are required to repeat those two findings, the segregation of duties and the oversight of the financial reporting process, one more time. It used to be we had to present it once in the audit report and then once here in the management letter. But when they added that corrective action plan where it has to be on your letterhead with management signature, they now have to be repeated 3 times to really, I guess, drive that home. So that is the conclusion of your 2020 audit report. Can I answer any questions?
First, let me thank you for your report and your diligence. I've heard several of these, and as you point out, it's the same couple of things every time. I find it hard to believe there's a district anywhere that has 14 to 16 people responsible for a financial transaction. They should probably hire more paras. But I don't think I have any questions. You seem to cover it, and the things that you said were not new, as you also pointed out. But fellow board members, questions, clarifications? All right.
Nothing further?
Nothing further.
All right, well, thank you all so much, and you have a great night, and I hope everybody stays safe and healthy through these crazy times.
Thank you. We hope the same for your
Thank you.
office.
Thank you. Have a great night.
So having heard it, we now need to approve it. Does this need to be phrased any specific way, or
I think if,
can we just?
we're approving the 1920 audit, so I think just,
Okay. Then I will move that we approve the 2019-2020 audit as presented to us.
Second.
We have a second. And again, any questions? So the segregation of duties thing that she discussed comes up every year. The other thing she mentioned, I don't remember that year over year, but it has the last couple of years been part of our.
It's a newer requirement.
Yeah. Been part of our, I don't know, part of our system. It's, as she explained, we don't really have to fix it because it's not a problem necessarily, as long as we're not being sloppy or lazy in our monitoring of these things.
I've never been in a district where we had 13 or 14. I think our teachers would look at us and think we were had horns growing out of our heads. If we said it had to go through 13 or 14 steps, I think that would be really too much.
So those, that's just gonna be something we see again and again, pretty much forever, but. No questions? Whenever you are ready.
okay, Ms. Teal,
Yes.
Mrs. Dement,
Yes.
Mr. Nichols,
Yes.
Mr. Yeager,
Yes.
Ms. John,
Yes.
Mr. Pasco.
Yes, approved 6-0-0. We need liability insurance. The explanation is in front of you. Is there a motion to recommend winter dent?
I'm going to make a motion to approve winter dent.
I'm sorry, to approve. rather than
Yes,
to
sorry,
recommend.
that was misprint.
I will make a motion to approve Winter Dent as a liability insurance provider for the 2021 year.
Thank you. We have a second. Any discussion? Whenever you're ready.
Okay, Ms. Teal,
Yes.
Mrs. Dement,
Yes.
Mr. Nichols,
Yes.
Mr. Yeager,
Yes.
Ms. John,
Yes.
Mr. Pasco.
Yes, approved 6-0-0. The bills to be paid. So normally this is done as part of the consent agenda, but I asked today, and as Collins explained, it was because we were gonna write a big check,
Yes, for the liability.
For the liability.
insurance.
but we don't have the invoice for it.
Not yet.
Not yet, okay, so. Is there a motion to approve the checks to be paid? None of these things would require any sort of extension from anybody, right? You've already covered those.
I pulled the Apple out as Ms. John had requested, and then if there's any other checks that anybody needs to pull.
Sure. I didn't see any for my part.
I tried to do a search, but I'm human.
Right.
I make a motion to pay the checks as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second, please?
Second.
We have a second. Questions, comments? Hearing none?
Miss Teal,
Yes.
Mrs. Dement,
Yes.
Mr. Nichols,
Yes.
Mr. Yeager,
Yes.
Miss John,
Yes.
Mr. Pasco.
Yes, approved 600. And we're getting a bid here for our wide area network service. And I think literally a bid. A motion to approve Vero Fiber Networks. Someone willing to make that motion?
Yeah, I will move to approve Vero Fiber Networks for the wide area network service bid.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
So,
Thank you. Any discussion? Is E-rate a state thing, a federal thing?
Federal.
So there's no sense that that's gonna decline? Next year, they're only gonna pay 75% or something like that?
It goes up and down, and it has, I mean, since I've been in education, I don't know if you have a sense, Ms. Hunt, for anything that's coming down the pike.
It goes on your free and reduced lunch. So we're sitting at like 80%, so if we go down to 75%, it'll go to 75%.
Okay.
But in my years that I've been here, it's always been 80%. It hasn't went down since I've been.
All right, very good.
This is this something you renew every 3 years, or is it just 3 years and then it's?
USAC requires it,
And USAC is?
the E-rate program, yeah, the federal program.
Further questions?
Miss Teal,
Yes.
Mrs. Dement,
Yes.
Mr. Nichols,
Yes.
Mr. Yeager,
yes.
Miss John,
Yes.
Mr. Pasco.
Yes, approved 600. And in a theme for this evening, we did not have our pre-meeting meeting to pick the Belcher Scholarship nominee because we only had one application. And fortunately, it was a deserving application, so that's addressed. But we want to congratulate Mr. Grant Norfleet as our award winner. We will send his name on to MSBA, and he will compete, if that's the right word. What is the next level for us? Is it the district level or?
Regional.
Regional, thank you. Level.
State.
It's different than sports. and
Yes, like-
Yeah, athletics as their own.
Conference
yeah.
sectionals, I can't remember. how
Yeah, I
it
know,
is.
yeah.
Um, And as has been our habit for several years now, I would like to move that we additionally award Mr. Norfleet $250 as a congratulations and job well done from the board.
I was second.
You have a second for that? Are there any questions anyone would like to ask about the scholarship or the application or the nature of it?
Amazing application, amazing young man. Do we need to make a motion to nominate him?
I've never had one, but in the MSBA website says that we need to nominate.
Okay.
So. and- So we can vote on
I
the
was gonna say,
motion to
let's
do
just-
the 250, and can I get that recorded? I have the word, Mr. Norfleet, the additional 250. I was writing as we were,
That can be the end of it, right?
Okay.
To award him an extra, or the additional $250, I think I said as a congratulations.
Okay.
So we'll go ahead and vote on that, and then we will pro forma his nomination.
Ms. Teal,
Yes.
Mrs. Dement,
Yes.
Mr. Nichols,
Yes.
Mr. Yeager,
Yes.
Ms. John,
Yes.
Mr. Pasco.
Yes, so that is awarded to him. Would you like to make a motion to,
Yes, I would like to make a motion that we nominate Mr. Grant Moorfleet as our John T. Felcher Scholarship recipient from the Mexico 59 School District.
thank you, and a second?
I'll second.
We have a second, very good.
Ms. Teal,
Yes.
Ms. Dement,
Yes.
Mr. Nichols,
Yes.
Mr. Yeager,
Yes.
Ms. John,
Yes.
Mr. Pasco.
Yes, nominated 6-0-0. Congratulations and good luck to him. We have some personnel as our next item. Is there a motion to approve personnel as listed?
I'll make a motion to approve the personnel as listed.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Second. Third.
Any questions, clarifications? Whenever you're ready, please.
Ms. Teal,
Yes.
Mrs. Dement,
Yes.
Mr. Nichols,
Yes.
Mr. Yeager,
Yes.
Ms. John,
Yes.
Mr. Pasco.
Yes. Approved 6-0-0. And then our last item this evening is the resolution from Audrain County Health Department, which you have in front of you, which I hope you've had the chance to read and consider. I will make a motion that we adopt this resolution to endorse the countywide mask advisory.
Second.
We have a second. Questions or discussion? Hearing none?
Ms. Teal,
Yes.
Mrs. Dement,
Yes.
Mr. Nichols,
Yes.
Mr. Yeager,
Yes.
Ms. John,
Yes.
Mr. Pasco.
Yes, resolved 6-0-0. And that brings us to the adjournment. Would someone like to read the magic words?
There's,
There are none.
make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
We have a second.
Ms. Teal,
Yes.
Mrs. Dement,
Yes.
Mr. Nichols,
Yes.
Mr. Yeager,
Yes.
Ms. John,
Yes.
Mr. Pasco.
Yes, we are adjourned 6-0-0. Thank you all. Merry Christmas, happy holidays.